Like, I never intended that to be my main gig. It was sort of like a fun side hustle, depending on the complexity or how quickly it comes to me. Sometimes it's a week, sometimes it's 2 weeks. The Basquiat set for the New Day, the color by numbers thing, a lot of those. But he could technically be a lord. No, he's technically Lord Ewan now. It's really kind of fascinating. That was an idea I had like 8 years ago.
It's already getting publicity as we speak on Twitter. A lot of wrestling fans, because Biggie's attached to it, it's already out there. So
the premise of the movie is it's a middle school heist, Ocean's 11 with 12-year-olds.
Everybody, welcome to a special episode of the Irish Wrestling Podcast. I'm joined today by graphic designer, costume maker, writer, dad, family man, Mr. Jonathan Davenport. Jonathan, how are things?
Doing well. Thank you for having me. Sorry I have so many titles.
No, everybody needs more than one title. You can't go through life with just one title. It can't be just called Mr. or Sir. It has to have something behind it.
I agree. I'm really envious of Lord. I'd love to, for Biggie's last birthday, I did the thing where I bought him like a square foot of land
in Scotland.
That he could be a lord. Yes.
Yeah.
So that he could technically be a lord. He hasn't publicized it. I think he doesn't want people to know, but he's technically Lord Ewan now. I
wouldn't want people in the production side of WWE to find that out, though. He could have a new gimmick, Lord E.
And a bad one, I'm sure.
Oh, I'm sure it would be terrible. Well, first of all, you're a very busy man. It's you're up the walls with a lot of projects at the minute. So we're going to introduce people to what you do as a whole, as your full-time, your role. Like, you're a graphic designer. Obviously, in previous interview we talked about your time with Disney and the stuff that you've done for them. Are you full-time now, solely doing, like, outside of some the writing you're doing? Are you fully focused on just designing ring gear for people? Is that your main source?
Man, it's interesting. I haven't had a day job, like a real job, in a few years now. The wrestling ring gear design stuff, I think we talked about this a little bit before, but like, I just kind of stumbled sort of into it backwards. Woods brought me in. We were just going to design some cartoon characters for a show he was pitching. And so, like, I never intended that to be my main gig. It was sort of like a fun side hustle where I got to relive my fantasies of youth of designing superheroes and having a comic book. And I was like, oh, I have a live action comic book now, and I get to design the characters. So, but like, business picked up, and it's been really nice. And I was able to sort of parlay that into more of a full-time gig while still sort of indulging myself with some creative endeavors on the side. It's been nice. I've been lucky.
Yeah, it seems like if you're on Instagram, like, when you see you put something up, it seems like every other day you're putting up a new design for someone, like Ricochet or the New Day or even Cesaro or Claudio, as he's called now. Even Bayley.
It's hard for me too.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, damn it, I keep calling them that. But like, some of the designs are phenomenal. Like, the process is, as they come to you, obviously, with an idea, they pitch an idea to you what they want to do. From that idea, how far into the process do you go? Do you be there when it's actually being made, as a physical item? Do you get to see it, or do you get to see it on TV like the rest of us for the first time?
I'm just like you. It's my dream. Someone please invite me to your shop, because I'd love to be there to see the things actually put together. So yeah, man, it's as much a mystery for me as it is for a lot of you, with the, of course, exception that sometimes the design process starts months before something shows up on TV for various reasons. So so I'll get the idea either from the talent, or sometimes I'll pitch something and you never know how it's going to go. But once we finally land on a theme, depending on the complexity or how quickly it comes to me, sometimes it's a week, sometimes it's 2 weeks. I'm on a project right now with, I can't say who, but we're going on like the third week of it. We'll find it. It's just been tough. It's been tough to narrow it down. And I don't know when it'll be seen on TV. So, and a lot of times, just because of the stage in life that I'm at right now with, now I'm raising a teenager technically. It's tougher, it's more involved, and I'm not able to sit and watch the shows as much as I used to.
Yeah.
Because, as you know, if you commit yourself to watching wrestling, that's worse
A
than like American
lot.
Idol was back in the day.
Yeah.
It's just hours and hours.
All
What
day.
is it? 8 hours a week? How long?
Yeah.
What is it now? What are we talking?
Yeah, easily like 3, 12, yeah, 8, probably 9 hours if
Eight
you
or nine
include.
hours.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's spread out every day. Like
Every day.
if you're in the
So
media space, like if people within like the wrestling media space have to cover wrestling, like they have podcasts after every show, like
I
6 days a week.
don't know how you do it.
I don't. I
You
definitely
don't?
don't.
You don't? I
Like,
thought you covered full time as much as
I
you could.
wish I did, but like over here, like we'd have to stay up to 4 a.m.
Oh,
just to
that's
cover
right.
it, and it's just
Yeah.
it's not feasible. Like we just like, especially after 3 hours of Raw, it's just impossible to stay
It's a
awake.
lot. Yeah. And every time, like, I want, obviously I want the best for the talent and for the
Yeah,
creatives. So, the more hours they get to work, the more they get paid, I assume, unless they're on salary, like the better. So that's great.
yeah.
But every once in a while you'll hear a rumor about like they're cutting Raw down to 2 hours. I'm like, yes, that would be great. Then I could actually commit to it, but they never
Yeah,
do.
that'll never
Um,
happen.
but my point was that I don't get to watch the shows as often
Yeah,
as I used to. So a lot of times I'm relying on social media tags to let me know when the gear actually shows up,
yeah,
because
yeah.
sometimes it's months in between. And the big regret for me is that I think there's a few designs that have slipped through the cracks that have made it on TV,
And you
and I
haven't seen.
never knew. I never find out, like people have to tag me. You have to let me know so I can see it and revel in it like the rest of everyone else.
Well, you have a good base now of people who are your regular, your regular customers. Basically, you can call them that now, can you? They're like Ricochet, and obviously,
Yeah,
besides the New Day, you have Ricochet as a regular customer.
they're my stable. I call them my
Yeah,
stable.
yeah.
Yeah, I have a really solid base of I was gonna say guys, a couple of ladies in there too, but it's mostly dudes and fellas that we work really well together. We have a great shorthand. We have a lot of similar references. The client that I can't name right
Hmm.
now threw me, I'm gonna be careful with my pronouns here, I don't give anything away, but threw me a reference saying uh, a Jim Lee style thing, and I was like, yes, got it.
That was
I
it.
understand. I know what to do. So yeah, so we have a really the current crop of people and talent that I'm working with now. We have a really good shorthand. Work well together. They like what I do. I love what they do. It feels good. It's good right now.
And you said it's like a couple of months in between the process. Like, has there ever been a time where they put you under pressure, or like, oh, we need this next week, kind of thing, or is it impossible to do it that quick?
Let me rephrase that into an even better question. Has there ever been a time when they didn't put the pressure on me? A few guys, Biggie in particular was very, when he was more active in the ring, was very cognizant about trying to get things done very far ahead of time,
Yeah, yeah,
because he knows how booked I am and how crazy things get. But a lot of times you'll get stuff very, very last minute. And it's not, honestly, there's not really anyone to blame. It's not talent's fault for not thinking ahead. It's the booking. A lot of times I'll get, oh, here's a good example. So Claudio, when he was Cesaro,
hmm
um, had me design a King of the Ring style gear for him. And it's so cool. And it's never been seen. And I keep begging him can we please show it off? And he's like, no, I might still use it. So I can't, it's in the vault. But back when they were doing the last King of the Ring thing, I think Woods eventually got it.
yeah,
Nobody knew, because the way the company works, they don't really book ahead of time. They don't really plan ahead. They're
yeah.
sort of, I don't know how it works there, but so a lot of talent didn't know, am I going to win? Am I not going to be king? Am I going to be king? So Claudio was one of the people who was like, let's make one just in case, you know? That's an example of someone who was like planning for a rainy
Yeah,
day.
yeah, yeah.
But there's a lot where sometimes they'll say, I might be on SummerSlam. I might not. I don't know. I'll let you know as soon as I know. And then when we do, we'll pull the trigger. And sometimes it's like, I think the fastest we've ever turned something around between me and I believe it was Main Event Gear was a week.
Oh,
And it was tight because,
wow.
on my end, I'm pushing pixels around,
Yeah.
and it's kind of tough in a different way. It's more of a just mentally challenging
Yeah,
way. It's
your
like,
eyes will go square staring at the screen for so long. Yeah.
exactly, like be creative on demand. So it's sometimes a little challenging that way, but I feel really bad for the gear makers themselves, because they'll
Yeah.
get gear design that I try to make it as possible as I can. Sometimes it's like, I don't know, you're gonna have to adapt this because I had a week, I had less than a week, and then they've got to actually sew it and find the materials and then ship it. That's the other thing,
Yeah.
because I don't know where everybody is. I know Main Event Gears in, I want to say, Alabama, and the shows are sometimes on the complete opposite
Yeah.
coast, and they've got to get it there overnight. Sometimes Robert drives it.
Wow.
They're very dedicated there, so I don't envy. I don't envy being the last one on the line.
That's crazy. And then there are seamstresses as well in on the day of the shows that are fixing stuff up as well.
I've heard about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a high pressure gig,
Yeah.
and it's not like you have to make something that just looks good. It has to be functional.
Yeah.
Like, it can't rip, it can't tear.
Yeah.
You can't get wardrobe malfunctions in front of a crowd.
Which
High
happens.
pressure, right?
It
High
happens.
pressure gig.
Yeah. You don't want that on TV. It's a PG
No.
show. That's your day job now. So outside of the wrestling gear that you make, you're a writer as well. I know you've written things in the past. You did the series, it was The Rub, it was called, wasn't it? That the 6-part.
No one knows about that. Yes, that's correct.
I've seen snippets of it. I haven't seen all of it, but it's something that you were involved in. It the new film that's out. It's in post production at the minute. Is that correct?
The Rub?
No, the F plus. The new
F
film.
plus.
Just...
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So F plus is in post right now. It's really kind of fascinating. That was an idea I had like 8 years ago. Just brainstorming. I just want to do something different. Like, I get, you might be like this too. I get bored if I'm doing the same thing for too long.
Yeah.
So the reason I don't have a day job, my friend, is because I can't hold a day job. I get too bored. But yeah, I just happened to find this document last night where I was going through a list of just old ideas because I was cleaning out my Dropbox, and I saw F plus in there. I was like, holy crap, that's great. Because at the time it was just a spec idea. I didn't think it would get made. But yeah, so it kind of, the backstory of it is that there's a company called Swin Studios, and they make all kinds of stuff. But one of the things that they make that I'm very attracted to is they make these sort of low to mid budget indie film, like family movies.
Yeah.
And just now I'm on the tail end of it with the 13-year-old, but when we were in the middle of it, you're struggling to find entertainment that doesn't make you go brain dead as an adult, but that keeps the kids entertained.
Yeah.
So they made a lot of movies I thought were kind of fit nicely in that lane, and I was wanted to work with them. And a buddy of mine, who I went to film school with, named Kenny Beaumont, got tagged as a director. He's in with them now, and when he was tapped to direct a movie, he was like, can my buddy Johnny get a pitch in? And they were like, sure, which was nice. So I threw in 5 pitches, another writer threw in another 5, and they just picked 2 movies sort of blindly out of the pitches. No guarantee that one of them would be mine.
Oh, really?
One of them happened to be F plus for the craziest reason. I spoke to the executive producer on the set, and he said that the premise of the movie is it's a middle school heist.
All right.
So it's like Ocean's 11 with 12-year-olds. So
brilliant.
He said, thank you. He said that when he was in middle school, there was an exam that he was worried about not doing well on, and he literally broke in, he climbed through the ventilation shaft to get into the teacher's lounge to steal the answers for the exam. And that was why he liked the movie. And I was like, I can't repeat that success. That's such a coincidence.
Brilliant.
What a weird coincidence.
That's so good. He did that.
Isn't that strange?
That's phenomenal. But that's something that myself and my wife always everything happens for a reason. Your buddy ends up being the director for a company, and they throw and that just happened. They randomly pick out yours out of a bundle, and it turns out he's after doing something similar like in his real life, which is that's phenomenal. That's a
So
great
crazy.
story. Like,
Man, I have to say, there's been a few projects in my life and in my career, not a ton, but a few that felt charmed. You
yeah,
know, the Basquiat set for the New Day, the Color by Numbers thing, a lot of
yeah,
those. Yeah. And this movie, F plus, like, you know, if it turns out crappy, I'll look like an idiot when anybody plays this back. But from right now, from this point in time, there's so many things in this project that shouldn't have worked, where the timing had to be exactly right, where a location had to come in exactly under budget, all these things, and every one of them worked out. And it's a cast of kids, and
yeah.
they're 11-year-olds or 12-year-olds, and man, you know, they're most kid actors, like, they're doing their best, but they're not experienced in the world. They don't have a long lifespan of things to draw from, you know. And you know, they're, you know, maybe sometimes not like working at the top of their game at that time in their life.
Mm-hmm.
These kids are phenomenal. Like, every one of them was incredible, and I was just shocked when I met them at how well spoken they are and how talented they are. So I feel like more than any other cinematic effort that I've made in the past, Our Heroes Rock and Bridges aside,
Yeah, yeah.
that this might have like a really good chance of being just a really high quality movie. I'm very happy with it so far.
It sounds so intriguing. Like, it sounds like the premise of the film. Like, where did you come up with the idea of a kids heist movie for school? Like, where did that come from?
Literally just because I knew that Swin Studios made a lot of family movies, and that's where I
Right.
wanted it to be. You know, honestly, I took it a little bit from the MCU. Okay, so I know a lot of people have talked about this, but like, the best Marvel movies to me are not the superhero, like straight superhero movies.
Yeah.
It's the ones where they kind of dip into another genre, and they're like, oh, here's the political thriller movie with superheroes, and, you know, here's the
Winter Soldier
heist
kind of
movie.
thing. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
exactly. Like, that's fun. You know, here's the
yeah,
horror movie, but with
yeah, yeah.
superheroes. So just kind of following that formula, I was like, what kind of genres would be fun to dip into with middle schoolers? And just the nature of them, with getting away with things and having like a little bit of a disdain for authority and a little bit of not knowing who you are yet and figuring life out, felt like it would work good with a heist movie where you have a plan and then everything goes
Yeah,
awry.
yeah.
Felt good.
Was it written as just a story, or was it written specifically as a screenplay when you actually
Oh,
wrote it?
screenplay for sure.
Yeah.
Screenplay for sure. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
as you said you've had a few as well. You have a few other screenplays in mind, or you have other ones that you're
A
working on.
few, yeah. But it's like anything else. Over time, you grow to hate your past work. So when I go back and so I've had two feature films made in the past that no one should go look up.
I'm going
I
to.
was, I know, me and my friends were in film school, and we were just learning the ropes. We didn't know anything, and we got the opportunity to make an action movie for international action star Hector Chavarria, who is now he's made a ton of movies, but at the time he was more of a big deal in Argentina, and he
Hmm.
wanted to make an American action film, or an action film in America with, you know, English language. But he wanted to do it on the cheap, understandably, so he enlisted some film students, like you do. So that was like our first time out making a movie. For, if you know that going in, it's not the worst. It's like, this is pretty good for some film students. It's not
It's
not that bad. It's
it's
okay.
not something you can tick off the bucket list when you're a student. You're like, you're never going to make a film, and then you make a film. It's just
Right. Yeah. So we made that, and then we made a second one as well. And that was it for, you know, a decade or something. You know, then came The Rub. We made some short films in between, but the next big endeavor was The Rub, the web series. And then another long drought, and then F plus came along. So it's been fun.
and you've been on. You said you were on. Were you on set for the whole making of it, or were you just in and
Not
out? Or
entirely. Yeah, unfortunately, I had to, not unfortunately, it was fun. That family trip I just mentioned,
yeah,
that was our vacation. So we just, for a million different reasons, weren't able to go on our usual trip at our usual time this year. So we had to squeeze our entire summer vacation into like the last little bit before school started. And it happened to be that F Plus was shooting, because F Plus is shot in a school.
Yeah, yeah,
And it had to be during the summer because that's the only time the kids aren't everywhere, you know?
yeah.
So we stopped by set on the way out of town and just hung out like a day or so, and then stopped by on the way back into town for another day. And then they did pickups the following weekend. So I went up and I worked a full like 48-hour shift for that. And that was really fun. So I was on set for some things, but not everything.
That's phenomenal though. And the casting, like obviously, do you have any say on the casting when you were writing it? Did you have characters in mind of who was going to play who? Or
Almost none. The only thing that I knew for sure was that after having worked with Big E on Our Heroes Rock and
yeah,
the short film Bridges, um, I've just kind of gotten to see him. He's good. Like, he has a lot of range, and I don't think people know that. Like, he can be very big, as you know, and
yeah,
over the
yeah.
top and boisterous. But when you see Bridges, now granted that's voice work, you'll hear that he's got like a really soft vibe too, and he can be very warm and very introspective and comforting. And I was like, I need people to see this. So because I have no say or power or pull on the movie F Plus other than just the screenplay. But whenever I could, I just kind of kept dropping his name, dropping his
Yeah,
name,
yeah, yeah.
dropping his name, dropping his name. And finally they took a look at him and they're like, oh yeah, he should be in this movie.
Brilliant.
So that was my big contribution, was getting E on the film.
Do you have a release date yet or something? Have they got an idea where it's going to go? Or
Not that I know of. In fact, it hasn't even, I don't think it even has a distribution deal. I
right,
think
right.
yeah, because there was a, you know, there was a strike that started
Yeah.
after the film had already started filming, and the strike
Okay.
started like halfway through. So that was one of those movies that would have been in a lot of trouble if they had to stop, because look, the lead kid, whose name is Wells, on the movie, grew 2 inches during the movie.
What?
During the movie, like the pants that he wore at the beginning of the movie are not the ones that he wore at the end. They had to buy a new wardrobe for him because he grew so much. So
Wow.
these kids, you remember middle school,
Yeah, yeah.
they change. So if the strike as of this recording is still going on,
Yeah, yeah.
if you had stopped this movie, it just would have died. Like, you couldn't have picked it back up because everyone would have Social Security
beards and
payments, beards, children. So yeah, but yeah, so we were lucky that we were able to finish up.
Yeah, it sounds really interesting. It sounds like something that I would really like to enjoy. I could see it, being on, Netflix or Disney or something like that. It sounds like that kind of,
I hope it, yeah, man, thank you. I hope it gets wide distribution, because I think it fills a niche for a
yeah,
couple of reasons. Like, one, like we were saying, it's got like some stuff for adults, but it's like for kids of that age, where I tried to keep it as interesting as possible. Like, you don't dwell in one moment for too long. It keeps changing. It's very kinetic. The heists are pretty involved and pretty fun that they do. And I'm not above the occasional fart joke, so we've got that in there too. There's still something for everybody. But at the heart of it, there's like kind of a real emotional journey that the main character has to go on, because he's one of those kids who is kind of so focused on his academic career and succeeding in life that he's sort of missing out on the fun of being an adolescent, which I think a lot of kids can sort of relate to. My wife's a teacher, so she tells me stories firsthand all the time about how intense the testing is and how it starts younger and younger and younger. And here where I live, they just passed a thing where they are taking recess and rest time out of kindergarten.
Wow.
Just to make room for more academics. And I feel like, man, when can kids be kids? And
I thought they were going the opposite direction for that kind of stuff with the way things are at the moment.
Not here.
And
in my opinion, not super developmentally appropriate. Like, I remember being that age. You need a break.
Yeah, their capacity is, for attention is just limited when you're that age. You just switch off, you just lose interest unless you get out to run around for half an hour and come back in and
I could use that as an adult.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So the heart of, like, you come for the heist and the farts, but like the heart of the story is more about that and about finding balance. So I hope people get to see it.
I hope so. I hope with people like Randy Couture and Biggie attached to it, like it should have a good. It's already getting publicity as we speak on Twitter. A lot of wrestling fans, because
I
Biggie's
saw
attached
that.
to it, it's already out there. So the wrestling community is very loyal. Whenever they see stuff like that, they're going to want to go and watch it, regardless if it's in the cinema or on a streaming service. So people are definitely going to want to watch it.
That's cool, man. We tried to do E right by the part that he has is in his wheelhouse, which is nice. But there was also a lot of room for improv. And
Nice.
if anybody knows E, he's great at that improv. And so he threw in a lot of jokes that we weren't expecting. We were all kind of cracking up behind the camera. And you're trying to keep it quiet because you don't want to ruin the take. And then when it's over, you just like burst out into laughter. So it was really fun.
Class. Love it. I can't wait to see it. Outside of obviously the film that's coming out now, we spoke previously about Our Heroes Rock. How is that coming along now since we last spoke? Have you progressed any further into other?
So Our Heroes Rock is going really well. Actually, currently, we're in a kind of a weird holding pattern. The project is technically done. I believe it started off as sort of a proof of concept, sort of a pilot kind of idea. But the more we developed it and the more well-rounded it became, it really started feeling like super special. And we decided to treat it as sort of a standalone piece. So now we're calling it a short film.
Okay.
It's about 11 minutes long and it is beautiful. Like it looks so good. We've only shown it to a couple of people to get feedback on, and people they're really giving us good feedback on it. They're saying Pixar level quality and stuff like that, which is, you don't throw that around lightly. At least I don't. So I'm really, really pleased with where it's at now. I think there's still one more round of sound design and sweetening to go on it, but for all intents and purposes, it's finished. It's currently in submission for several festivals, which we're going to hear about soon. We want to release it to the public, obviously, as soon as possible. The only thing we're trying not to do is shoot ourselves in the foot, because some festivals have rules about, something that they're going to show as part of their lineup can't be publicly available on like YouTube or other streamers or things like that. So we're trying to do things in the correct order to give it the best chance of success. So right now we're sort of holding on to it while it's doing that. And in terms of like showing it to industry people, we're trying to be respectful of the strike and the writers and actors who are trying to get what they deserve and not put money into the pockets of people who are keeping it out of their hands. So we're not having any current talks with anybody about that right now. We're just sort of sitting and letting it like live its life as a festival piece for the time being.
Yeah, well, again, that's another one of those projects that I'm dying to see the finished article. We've been talking about it. We spoke about 2 years ago when you were first talking about it.
It's about 2 years now, man.
Crazy.
Yeah,
it's so cool. Like I'm still, I still love just looking back over your Instagram and seeing the images and seeing the creation process. Just looks so phenomenal. Like so.
Thank you so much.
Have you anything else coming up? Any other projects or anything else you're pitching? Or?
Oh boy, yeah. So we've got a couple of other ideas in the works, and it's like kind of the one good thing about like with E not technically being cleared to wrestle right now. He's got some off time. He travels quite a bit doing promotional work for the company, but he has more downtime, which is nice. It sort of mimics the time that we had during COVID. That's when this whole project was born. It was like everybody had to stop, unfortunately, but we were able to sort of make something good out of it and use that time. So he's got this downtime. I just finished a SummerSlam run. I don't have like a ton of stuff for like the next maybe 3 weeks, like something sporadically, but I'm not like booked back to back, like with no time. So we are spending some time developing a couple of other ideas in the same lane and kind of with the same mission in mind. So hopefully we'll get to see even more stuff as time rolls on.
I certainly hope so. I'm really looking forward to seeing F Plus movie. It sounds like something I'd really love to watch, and definitely going to push it around, here once we get a final release date or whenever it gets out.
Thank you so much. I'm really proud of it, and the whole cast and crew worked so hard on it under like some very like it's a tight budget. It was a tight timeline, and where a lot of times they were shooting under the unforgiving Florida sun.
Yeah, I can imagine.
so the fact that it looks as good as it does, and we got the performances that we needed, is sort of a testament to how hard everybody worked.
Brilliant. Jonathan, I won't keep you any longer. It's been a pleasure speaking to you. It's great to catch up. I really looking forward to seeing what comes out of you next. Like once this movie takes off, you know, the sky's the limit. You know, people are going to be knocking down your door for more. I'm sure you have other stuff that you want to pitch to people. So people keep an eye out. And Jonathan, if you're not subscribed to the Irish Wrestling YouTube channel, you know what to do. Follow Jonathan on Instagram. You follow him on Twitter, on X, whatever you're calling it these days. Keep an eye out for F Plus Movie. It's they have an Instagram page, they have an X page, Twitter page, whatever you want to call it, and hopefully it'll be out soon enough. And we look forward to watching it. Jonathan, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you again. Have a good day.
Thank you for having me. This is so fun.
Thank you, man.